I just want people to know that you can't be penalized for being a patriot. And he's a great patriot. And he's also done an incredible job with Tesla. People should be going wild, and they love the product, but because he's finding all sorts of terrible things that have taken place against our country, they want to penalize him in an economic sense. And I just think that's very unfair.
All right, so Mr. Trump's buying a Tesla. By the way, no leverage. You just go and buy it for cash. Joining us now, House members Claudia Tenney of New York, Paulina Luna of the great state of Florida. Ladies, thank you for coming on. Paulina Luna, you going to buy a Tesla too?
You know, I don't know if Tesla's in my pocketbook price range, but I can tell you that although I love electric cars, I love American muscle more. So I'm hoping Elon eventually becomes a supporter of that.
How about you, Claudia? There's a Tesla waiting in your driveway.
They're very cool. It would not be practical in upstate New York, and I'm hoping when Trump eliminates the Biden-era benefits for buying an EV, and they compete on the open market with her muscle cars, then I think that would be great. So let's make sure that $7,500 in the excise tax and everything you get for buying an EV, those incentives will be eliminated by President Trump, and Tesla and all the other EVs can, actually compete in a free and open market. But they're very cool, and I have a lot of friends who have them, but I don't think it's going to work too well in upstate New York, but they're beautiful, neat cars.
You can have a gasoline muscle car. You can have an electric muscle car. I'm sure we can meet someplace in somebody's driveway. Now, as you know, I interviewed Elon yesterday, and he talked about the massive waste, fraud, and abuse in the entitlement program, something which, by the way, the GAO, General Accounting Office, has pointed out. This is not like it's new news. The numbers may be slightly higher, but he's been under attack on this. So here's Elon talking about waste, fraud, and abuse and benefits in Social Security and Medicare. Please take a listen.
I mean, the waste and fraud in entitlement spending, which is most of the federal spending is entitlements. So that's like the big one to eliminate, because that's the sort of $500 billion, maybe $700 billion a year. That is also a mechanism by which the Democrats attract and retain illegal immigrants by essentially paying them to come here, and then turning them into voters.
So, Anna, that point right there, that's the way Democrats attract illegal immigrants. And by the way, when they get here, they want them to vote in places like New York and California. I mean, don't you think Musk makes a very important point? Democrats feeding at the trough. They're besides themselves that they may lose all this entitlement pork.
Well, he does, but there's also this unfair messaging, and I would argue even lies from the Democrat Party platform that's trying to paint what DOGE is doing, what this administration and what the Republican governing body is doing as cuts, when in actuality we're looking towards savings, and then also to getting rid of that fraud, waste, and abuse. But I would also ask this question: if the American people, or if the Democrats genuinely believe that access to the welfare system and pushing people into that system is somehow the American dream, having grown up in that, I would tell you that it's exactly the opposite. It's actually very hard to leave that system once you're involved in it. And what we should be doing is telling people to come here legally, being able to work, being given all the benefits, but they have to do it the legal way. And when they don't, they get hurt in the process. And so it's simply unacceptable. I'm glad that we're taking a hard stance against it.
And Claudia Tenney, on this point, and Elon clarified again today, he's not talking about the benefit packages. He's just talking about the waste, fraud, and abuse that's inside these entitlements, which is an enormous number. People may be afraid to touch that, but they shouldn't be afraid to touch that. It's about fraud. It's not about the benefits, Claudia.
Absolutely, and I think he made a really important point. He was talking about most of our budget is mandatory spending. So when we talk about CRs and all this other stuff that we're doing today with some anomalies to protect our Department of Defense, we're talking about discretionary spending, which we control, which is less than, I think it's like 75 to 80% as mandatory, and the rest is discretionary. So most of it, we need to attack the spending side. And by the way, Anna's right. Fraud, abuse, and waste is the problem. And you can look at the entitlements that we have in New York State, for example. 8 million people in the state of New York are on Medicaid. Only 5 million are eligible. That's a $20 billion a year hit for taxpayers of New York, but also the federal taxpayers pay for that because the money comes from the federal government and it's split half and half with the state. And so the taxpayers are taking a hit on the federal side and the state side. What we're trying to do is streamline the government. We're trying to make it accountable and transparent, and we're trying to get rid of these unnecessary programs that got created on the mandatory side, and and reduce those and extend them where they're no longer necessary. And the millions in savings and billions in savings just from taking out, whether it's these DEI programs and all those other programs that have put in place that we don't need in the federal government. I mean, there's so much room, and he's doing what many have tried to do, but he's doing it in a way that's I think is going to be successful in the end. It's going to be up to us actually to codify those and put them into law.
Just for a moment, let me play some additional sound. Here's Elon clarifying Social Security. Hang on.
Yep.
Can you guarantee people who are concerned about an interruption to benefits that there will not be?
Yes, we're going to be very careful with any interruption to benefits. In fact, only by tackling the waste and fraud in entitlements like Social Security, Medicare, can we actually preserve those programs for the future. Because with unchecked fraud and waste, we won't be able to afford them.
So you can hear, I mean, the Democrats are demagoguing this like crazy, Anna, saying that he wants to cut benefits and so forth. That is not the case. But his other point is important. If you don't clear up the waste, fraud, and abuse, that's going to wreck the program. I don't think people understand that.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely correct. And, I'd like to put out there that the people that genuinely deserve it, that have paid into these programs, they're the ones that are going to suffer the most when you do have Social Security checks, for example, that was discovered that were being sent to Ukraine, or Social Security checks that were being sent to people that are 350 years old. That is not normal, nor should it be acceptable. And so that's what we're really looking at under a microscope to eliminate. But I will also follow up in saying this. We are ultimately here to serve the American people. That is exactly what we're doing. I can assure the American people, specifically the older people that are on fixed incomes, that we are fighting for you. So don't pay attention to a lot of the propaganda that you're hearing out of the left. That's simply not the case, and we'll prove it to you all.
All right. Claudia, I wanted to sell you a Tesla. We're out of time. The producers are screaming at me. I'll say.
Remember something, though. Trump's priority is to cut taxes on Social Security.
Yep.
So the Democrats are demagoguing this.
We're
Absolutely
going to
wrong.
win big.
Great point. No, terrific point. Very important point. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. Congressman Claudia Tenney, Paulina Luna. We appreciate it very, very